This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998, 212th Trooper, Silas 1610, Carmen CJ, Rune Scribble, Kitsu the Kitsune, Blood Down, Papa Podo, and Team Valor, and brought to you by 212th Trooper who requested this topic. If there is a video you want me to make, just head over to Patreon or become a channel member, and select the Pickled Producer tier, since among other benefits, you'll get to make a video request every month, be it the continuation of an existing series or a brand new story. Now, before we get into today's story, I just want to ask you to do me a favor, hit that like button, since it tells YouTube you enjoy what I do, and check whether you're subscribed, since only about a quarter of my viewers are, and it's a free way to keep up to date with all my content. In return, I'll do all I can to keep making regular quality content for you. Thanks, and let's hop in. 8 years have passed since the end of the Meta Liberation War, and in that time, a new generation of heroes and villains have risen, each with the intent of defining this burgeoning age, though none have had quite the impact of Re-Destro and the team of teens who ultimately brought him down. In the shadow of this, society is stabilized, and while still far from perfect, it has been an age of peace with no end in sight. However, that is not to say that nothing has ended, as we now rejoin Izuku, Ochako, Dick and Bruce all clad in black, though for once it is not their hero costumes, but instead formal wear, as they assemble to say farewell to one of their own. As the one who had been closest to Alfred, Bruce is the first to approach the coffin, laying a hand gently on his oldest companion's shoulder, as he wistfully questions how they both got so old, his own hair now fully silver in the light of the funeral parlor, before gently leaning in to thank him for being his father, and sighing that he wishes he'd said that more while he was alive. Following this is Dick, who despite having buried enough friends both during the war in his world and this one, admits that it never gets easier, while allowing a now teenage Eri to join him and say goodbye to the man who had been her primary caregiver following her rescue from Chisaki. And finally, Izuku and Ochako approach, hand in hand, with the latter sighing that she wishes he could have made it to the wedding, since he worked so hard to help with the place settings even in his final weeks, while Izuku nods that's exactly who Alfred was, a trusted supporter who never asked for anything in return. With their goodbyes out of the way, the service begins. It is a quiet, solemn affair befitting of Alfred's dignity, though when it concludes, the procession do not depart for a nearby graveyard. Instead, Bruce entrusts the coffin to Jean, with the Manhunter warning that if the former Dark Knight attempts to use his absence to violate the terms of his exile, it will not go well for him. Shaking his head, Bruce replies that the thought never crossed his mind, though when Ochako questions what the pair are talking about, the American explains that he was able to convince Jean to return Alfred's body to their world, so he could be laid to rest at the real Wayne Manor, not the facsimile he created here. Curiously, the brunette asks if he intends to do the same with his body when he passes, though smiling wryly, Bruce shakes his head, stating he has no desire to return to the place where he was at his worst. This is the world where he was reborn, and he intends to remain here for the rest of his days and beyond. Unfortunately, this is about all the time for discussion either of them have, as the roles of pro-hero and commission chairman don't leave much room for chit-chat, though as he goes, Bruce tells Ochako and Izuku that he'll see them tonight, with this earning grimaces from both of them, as Ochako modestly states that she still doesn't think she should be on the list, while Izuku gently pats her on the back as he rambles off all the reasons she deserves the honor, his motor-mouth mode showing just how nervous he is as well. As it turns out, the event in question is the announcement of the new top 10 heroes in Japan, with Izuku and Ochako both being celebrated due to their status on the list. However, they aren't the only familiar faces, as Mirio is also here, retaining his spot as the current number 1, though truthfully he's more excited that bakugou earned his way back to number 4 after a series of abrasive comments late last year dropped him down to number 15. Likewise, Shoto is here, now operating under the name Endeavor, with Izuku quietly pulling him aside to confirm that there are no hard feelings between them, as the green-haired hero's ascent to the number 2 spot will push Shoto down to number 3. Though shaking his head, Shoto placidly replies that he's not as concerned with ranking as his father, and that for a long time now he's felt Midoriya should have been ranked above him, and likely would have been were he not quirkless. Rubbing the back of his neck a little awkwardly, Izuku sighs that even with all that's happened in the last 8 years, it's clear some quirk bias still exists, though he's proud that his efforts have finally been able to convince the rest of the commission of what he can do. And with that, the ceremony begins. In contrast to the sober, restrained affair Izuku and Ochako had attended that morning, this is almost its exact opposite, as no expense is spared to turn the event into an extravaganza people around the world will watch, with each of the 10 heroes being trotted out while fireworks go off and a narrated highlight reel of their best moments play on screens throughout the arena. As the new number 2, Izuku is the second last to take his place on stage, with his reel sounding more like an advertisement for the Beyond suit than him. That is until near the end, when suddenly the narration cuts out, and the carefully curated reel is replaced by a couple of clips seemingly recorded on people's phones, of Izuku helping those in need, and showing profound kindness even when the world isn't watching. Having a feeling he knows who orchestrated this edit, the new Batman's eyes fall briefly on Bruce seated among the other commission higher-ups, and while his posture and expression don't change, he does give his former protege a subtle wink, with this being all the communication that passes between them. Following this is a series of interviews, with everyone acquitting themselves well, having had years in the spotlight to practice their mic technique, with even Bakugou managing to keep a lid on things. As for Shoto, he remains as impassive as ever, though whether this is due to his remaining awkwardness or simply because he's fielded all the questions about his relation to his father's legacy a million times before is anyone's guess. Meanwhile, Ochako receives special attention, both as the newest addition to the top 10 at number 7, and the final member of the quartet who'd beaten Re-Destro and been dubbed the Teen Titans by the public to make it onto the list. And finally, there is Izuku, who mostly uses his time to spread a message of hope and progress, recounting the continued success of the Wally West Scholarship, which in partnership with Dick Grayson over in America has now established Batman in over 40 countries, as well as his branch of Batman Inc.'s efforts to reform Tartarus into a true rehabilitation facility, even proudly announcing its recent work-release partnership with the prison, and how it has seen several inmates earn parole, as former villains Gentle Criminal and La Brava have found places running the Hero Agency's cybersecurity division, while David Shield is in charge of Hero Gear development over in America's Wayne Tech branch. In fact, they are even in talks with the Commission about using this program as a way for redeemed villains to earn hero licenses, as Dick has personally expressed interest in sponsoring Spinner as a sidekick once he completes his sentence. On the whole, it is a good night, with the 4 old friends going out to dinner afterwards along with a few of their classmates who didn't quite make the top 10, since while they do still work together from time to time, with Izuku and Ochako working the most closely due to their engagement and roles as the two heads of Japan's Batman Inc., they rarely get time to just hang out with their old friends, with the group swapping stories late into the night, and only deciding to go home when Bakugou gets drunk enough to loudly start telling the story of how he once met this floating little imp who wore Deku's ugly-ass bat mask and claimed to be from the 5th dimension. And it is wise that they show restraint, as the next morning marks the start of UA's annual internships, with most of them receiving visits from young heroes in training due to their status as some of the most highly regarded pros of the modern age. Naturally, Izuku and Ochako are no exception, as they now have an intern of their own, one they have long anticipated the arrival of, Eri, who enters the Batcave sporting her brand new red, green and yellow hero suit courtesy of Bruce, and a proud hero name to match, Robin. At once, Ochako beams and gushes over how cute Eri looks, while fussing like a concerned parent. Izuku asks if she wouldn't rather, pants, since those shorts are awfully short, laughing with a fullness that those who love her feared she would never find again after Overhaul's abuse. Eri teasingly tells her surrogate older brother to relax, since the only time people will be looking at her legs is when she's driving a kick into their face with her awesome Batman martial arts. This familiar banter goes a long way to calm the green-haired hero, as adopting a smirk reminiscent of Bruce, he grins that if that's the case, why don't they put her theory to the test, since they were just about to go out and patrol, and he'd love for her to join them. Eyes widening, Eri excitedly asks if he means it, and as Ochako nods and wraps an arm around the girl, leading her outside, the three of them take to a nearby rooftop. Curiously, Eri questions what they're doing up here, and sharing matching looks of faint nostalgia. Izuku and Ochako reply in tandem that her first lesson is going to be on urban traversal and tailing a target without being seen. As this is the girl's first foray into actual hero work, this is done on innocent civilians who are distinct enough to pick out in a crowd, with Izuku and Ochako having her mark the target and follow them for 20 minutes before reporting back on their movements. Always eager to please, Eri is quick to dive headlong into this task, picking her target and hopping from roof to roof after them with a couple of little acrobatic flourishes she learned from Dick. Trusting her to be able to handle this on her own, Izuku and Ochako hang back and watch from a distance, with it almost feeling like they're watching their younger selves at work. When Eri is out of earshot, Izuku does quietly question if Ochako thinks she'll be alright, and seeing the kind, sweet worrywart behind the intimidating mask of the Beyond suit, Ochako lays a hand on her partner's as she faintly smiles that she will be, since even if trouble emerges, she'll have the two of them to guide her and give her the tools she needs to stand on her own one day. That's what good mentors do. Thinking briefly of Bruce, Alfred, and all the lessons they taught him, Izuku nods. Then with a soft smile forming under the mask, he agrees. After all, a hero's greatest legacy isn't the villains they stop, but the people they help along the way. And perhaps the people who help them in return, as in the weeks that follow, the pair are forced to lean more and more on their friends and family, since on top of juggling their hero duties and mentorship, the day of their wedding is fast approaching, with it taking a Herculean effort from the Class 1A alumni and the Bat family to get all ready in time. Nonetheless, they do manage, so that in the morning of, Izuku finds himself pacing around his apartment in Wayne Tower, his mouth and feet competing to see who can go faster. As the best man, Shoto lays a hand on his old friend's shoulder and questions if he's getting cold feet, since if he is, he can use his quirk to warm them up. The sheer shock of Shoto making a joke, even a not very good one, is at last enough to calm Izuku down, if only temporarily, and seeing this as their moment, Bruce and Bakugou descend as though they are performing a combo ultimate move, though in this case they are tag teaming as groomsmen, not heroes, with the elder Batman reassuringly stating that his young friend can do this, while Bakugou more abrasively snaps at Deku to get his shit together. He fights supervillains every other freaking day, he can handle a little wedding. Finding solace in these familiar presences who have done so much to shape his life, Izuku thanks them, before straightening his tie one last time and descending to the atrium where everyone is waiting. As one of Heroing's main power couples, pros from around the country are in attendance, with even Star and Stripe having chosen to come over as Bruce's +1. Taking his place at the raised dais, Izuku watches as a few minutes later Ochako descends, having traded her hero suit for a bridal gown, and as she takes her place beside him, he grabs hold of her hands and gives a small smile meant only for her. With this, the ceremony begins, and despite the lavish setting, the couple decide to keep it brief and classic, so that before long, they lock eyes and share the words they have both dreamed of saying for a very long time. I do. And that's where we'll leave this series. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts, suggestions, or screams of rage in the comments below.